Hi, I'm Nate Adams, CEO of HVAC 2.0, and one of the most common questions that I get is, how the heck do I find a blower door? So thought I would do a quick video on this. So there are really three paths. So there is borrow or rent, which is how we highly recommend you starting, versus new versus used. So borrowing and renting, when you are dipping your toes into the HVAC 2.0 waters, I know that you as a technician love buying tools. I get it. I have bought plenty of tools through my life as well. But it's a $4,000 tool new or 1 to 3,000 used. So don't buy this unless you're committed. I'm doing an offer decline on you. So I don't want to be at fault for you buying a $4,000 tool that now sits on the shelf, because about half of blower doors sit on shelves unused. And same can go with duct blasters. A friend of mine here in Cleveland, the only time he ever got it out for pay was for me working on one of our jobs. That's it. He'd owned it for like 8 or 10 years. So make sure that you are going to use the tool before you buy one. So I'll go into a couple places to look for those, but finding a local tester is good, or an energy auditor. Could be HERS-Rater. There's a lot of different things. Or ping one of your local weatherization agencies, and I'll show you how to find them too. If you buy it new, Bill Spone's a good friend. So go to TrueTechTools.com and get it there. Use HVAC 2.0 as the code. You'll get 8% off. That's going to help us track who is buying stuff. So it's helpful just to find that. We don't actually get anything. It's just basically tracking purposes. So between the two manufacturers, so there is the Energy Conservatory, sometimes known as Minneapolis Blower Door, and there is Retrotec. Between the two, our strong leaning is Retrotec because they have Sam Myers. Sam has spectacular infield experience. He's got a really good head for diagnostics, and he understands what we're doing in HVAC 2.0. So that is our strong leaning. If you buy it new, get their new smart cloth, by the way. So it has the tube that measures outdoor pressure in the actual cloth itself. It's just really nice not to have to figure out how to throw the hose out. So there's something called the crawl of shame, which is if you don't plan ahead, and you have to put the blower up and then go through the hole to go set the hose to get outdoor pressure. That's called the crawl of shame. And the smart cloth makes it so you don't have to do that. So if you're going to buy new, that's the path to go. Now, if you're going to buy used, you are looking at between $1,000 and $3,000 in general. Sometimes you'll find them less, but not always. And any of the products, so the two brands, they both make a good product. So it's like Ford versus Chevy. It's a preference thing as much as anything. So anything in the last two generations is fine. That goes back to about 2008 or thereabouts. So we're talking, 12, 15 years worth of product. There's plenty to go around out there. So I'll show you what those gauges look like. The big thing that you lose is on older gauges, you don't get Wi-Fi, which means you can't use an app with them. So you just have to take pictures to document. So for Retrotec, these are the two gauges that are most recent. So the one on the left, the DM32, that is their current gauge. It's not crazy new. I think it came out in like 15 or thereabouts, 14, something like that. And then there's the DM2, which is the generation before. So these are effectively, they function the same. Now, the DM32 is nice because it's a touch screen like you're used to with the phone, and the DM2 is a little bit more messing around. But it's the same difference with the Energy Conservatory. So their new gauge is the DG1000. That came out fairly recently, about 2 years ago. And then there's the DG700, which is how I cut my teeth. Because generally you'll find you will buy whatever your trainer prefers. So, like I said, we generally prefer Retrotec, but either of these is fine. And when you're looking for something used, you buy what you can get your hands on. So the DG700, they are not hardly making parts for these anymore, and that may be true for the DM2. I'm not 100% positive. So after a while, this will become obsolete because some of the parts are not made for it anymore. Probably have some time, and they can last a long time. I never had mine calibrated. In fact, I never once. I bought it in 2010. It's now 2021, and I haven't calibrated it. I have tested it against friends' blower doors, and it's come in within 1 or 2%. And I'm like, that's fine. That was my calibration. So these generally stay pretty good unless you drop and abuse them a lot. And they do take some abuse. I mean, mine rode around on my insulation truck for years. So box truck with cellulose in it is not the kindest place. Lots of acid in the cellulose. All right, quick tip when you are testing a gauge. So if you go look at a used one, and this was a tip from Sam Myers, told you he's super useful. He helped me out on the Retrotec when I first got one too. I was hooking the tubes up incorrectly. I put them the way that I was used to with a Tech one, and that doesn't work. Couldn't figure out why, and it was kind of a duh moment. So it's very helpful. He will call or text you back quickly under just about every circumstance. But he suggested check the two sides against each other for calibration. So all of these gauges are actually 2 manometers in one, and they are super accurate. So this is way better than a manometer for testing static. These are accurate typically to within 1/10 of a pascal, and there's 101 pascals in an 101,000 pascals in an atmosphere. So we're talking 1/1,000,000th of an atmosphere is what they're accurate down to. These are very nice gauges. So if you want to test it, what you can do, you can basically do a zonal test. Kick on the air handler of whatever building you're looking at it, close the door. There's probably going to be a pressure difference between them, and put 2 hoses on. So it doesn't matter which side, like this is one manometer, this is the other manometer. So it doesn't matter which one you put the hose on, you're just going to do it. And so you may get, one will be positive, one will be negative, but as long as the reading is the same, it's okay. So sometimes these will be abused or broken, and that's how you can find out relatively easily. The fans themselves, good luck breaking them. There's a great video of Jim Bergman very nervously throwing a Retrotec off the back of his truck like 5 times. It's just brutal watching it happen. Like, oh, what are you doing? But it survived. So the fans themselves are quite robust. You can probably, I don't think those need to be calibrated at all because they just have a lead that goes to one part of them to measure pressure. But this is a key thing. It's one of the few things you can really test when you go look at one used. All right, so how to find one. So I'm going to start with the rent or borrow path. So you can go to retrotec.com, and they have a find a tester link. And this is what you get when you do that. And I clicked residential blower door testers. So this will show you whoever is near you, and maybe you're lucky enough to have somebody close to you, or maybe you're not. So whichever way. BPI is the Building Performance Institute. So they have pretty decent training. The only certification that I have is building analyst from BPI. But frankly, it focuses so much on the what and not so much the why that I didn't find it crazy useful. Like, it was fine. But I don't know that I would take a week off to take that course. I'd probably look for something that you can do video, over the internet or whatever. And my book will teach you a great deal of what I learned in that class. It just won't do combustion safety testing, and I hate combustion safety testing anyway. So part of my love of electrification is I really hate combustion safety testing. So there's at least 2 days of a 1-week class are on combustion safety testing. But anyway, you can go to bpi.org, click homeowner rather than contractor, and then click find contractor. And what you'll find here, this is actually, so community action, that is the Ohio name, and it may be the name for other states as well for a weatherization company, or it's a weatherization agency. I'll get to that in just a moment. But you can see if there's somebody close to you, you can call them and ask, hey, can I rent or borrow your blower door to go do your first 2 comfort consults? One for a friend or family member, and then one for someone inside your company. All right, weatherization. This is probably the largest buyer by far of blower doors. So weatherization is for low income, and we have a great deal of our learning from just building science. So we know what works and what doesn't. And a lot of that goes back to the Department of Energy's Weatherization Assistance Program, or WEP. Does not mean what the song means. Weatherization Assistance Program. So this helps insulate and air seal low-income homes to reduce their bills. That's what it is. We've learned a lot of building science from it. But they routinely do blower door testing. They actually do good QC. My training on how to insulate walls is from a weatherization agency back when I was an insulation contractor, and I did a little bit of weatherization work. So this would be the place to pursue training. If you want some training on how to insulate, I would see if you can pay to join them for their training, because it's good. But here's how this works. There's a big federal pot, and then they take that money and they split it up between the states individually. I don't know exactly how they weigh it, but each state gets a piece of the pot. So what you can do is you go to Department of Energy, or just type in Weatherization Assistance Program and look for something that ends in .gov, so federal government. And then you scroll down a little bit and you'll find this: contact your local weatherization organization. So this is pretending basically like you're a homeowner, and this is drill and fill right here. So I've done a bunch of this myself. And then when you click that, this is what you get. So scroll over your state, click it, and then see who's closest to you and give them a call and let them know what you're doing. This is still going to be new, so they're going to be like, huh, you want to borrow or rent the blower door? But just ask, because almost everybody that works here is a nerd and enjoys what they do. So they may come out and help you test too. So it's worth checking. This is going to be one of your better free paths for doing that. So again, look up Weatherization Assistance Program, then go through and find your local place. You can also just Google it, weatherization, and your city. Now, let's talk about finding used. Facebook Marketplace has really emerged as kind of like, it's the best place to find just about anything for a good deal. So it was Craigslist for a while. It was eBay years ago. I remember, it's a mid and late 90s when it was a good place to buy cheap stuff. But eBay is not cheap anymore. And Craigslist is so flaky that it can be really hard. And then you have to search by city. There's a few workarounds, but they're not great. But Facebook Marketplace is a great way to look for stuff. So I typed in blower door, and this is what came up right now within 500 miles. So see what there is by you and go from there. So as it turns out, it's almost all Minneapolis that's out there, so tech. eBay is another good place. eBay had a number of Retrotec units on there. Oh, I should mention duct blasters. So for starters, don't start with a duct blaster. Like if it's a used deal where you get both at the same time and it's a good deal, fine, get them both. But duct blasters are not particularly important in the 2.0 process, even in southern states. But if you do have a lot of ductwork in the attic or in a crawl space, it may eventually be a good idea to have a duct blaster, but it's not going to get used that much. Because you can get a decent idea of how leaky a duct system is simply by running the blower door and putting a pressure pan up over one of the registers and seeing how connected indoors or outdoors it is. So you can get an idea of whether it's a train wreck or not very quickly. And in the comfort consult, you're just trying to understand, are more diagnostics a good idea, or do you know enough? And so you don't need the duct blaster for that. But if you live in the South, yeah, it may make sense in time. But don't start with that again unless it's a two-for deal where it makes sense just to get them both. But eBay is a pretty good place to find blower doors as well. Search Tempest. This used to be better in my recollection. Maybe I am incorrect, but this is one of the services that searches all over the country in Craigslist, but now it wasn't showing me anything. All I got were eBay listings. So maybe there's nothing on Craigslist right now. This is going to vary. So just keep looking if you're looking for one and see what you find. Again, they tend to stay in calibration pretty well unless they're badly abused. And you can go back to 10, 15-year-old equipment and it's fine. Another place to look for used stuff is Building Performance Association. So this is going back into my home performance side of things. We have largely abandoned home performance, for better or for worse, because they're just basically all about government money. They aren't really trying to create any market momentum at all. But there is a community. It's called the Connected Community. It keeps changing names. Same thing with BPA. It's been all kinds of stuff. It's always the mark of a great organization when they're repeatedly merging with another organization. But this can be a decent community to join and then ask technical questions. So you may be able to find they have a little group on buy, sell, and trade for equipment in there. So BPA Connections, look that up. It's bpaconnectedcommunity.org, and there may be something there. But this is probably a bit of a long shot, but I've seen decent listings in there, and then there's other times where there's nothing. So that's the basics. So you can borrow or rent and look for a local tester. So that could be through the Retrotec website, BPI, or weatherization. See if you can find someone to borrow or rent one from. I wouldn't buy one out of the gate because, again, you don't want to have an expensive tool you don't use. And 2.0, it's a big mindset shift. So like you got to mean it. Otherwise, just stick with what you got. If you want to buy it new, it's a little under $4,000, but figure $4,000-ish. And then used 1,000 to 3,000, and anything in the last 2 generations is fine. If you're going to buy new, HVAC 2.0, use that as a code. Don't pay full price at Retrotec. And that's that. So hopefully that is helpful to you as you are sniffing around the edges of the HVAC 2.0 mindset and way of life. So I'm Nate Adams. Have a great day. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.